What is up guys, we are back with another video. So a couple of days ago I went on Instagram and I showed you this digital sketch and asked if you guys wanted to see how I vectorize my sketches, and it was pretty much a unanimous yes. So in today's video we're going to be going over how I vectorize my sketches in Adobe Illustrator. Let's just get straight into it. So what I want to do first is I just want to start off with putting my sketch on my artboard. So just place it on and then turn your opacity down. So I'm going to go with something like 40%. And what you also need to have is the image that you used as reference. So just make sure you've got that somewhere, just so when it comes to doing your shadows and your highlights, you've got more of a realistic image in your head rather than just going off the top. So lock that layer and create a new layer, and what I want to do now is just start off with making the wheel, and then from there we can just start doing the body. So what I want to do first is just hold down shift and make a circle like so, and then just make sure that you're using your outline first rather than your actual fill. So what I like to do is when I'm starting off is just use a luminous pink colour for the colour of my outlines, just so I can actually see them a bit more clearly, and then I can just make them black when I'm done. So just want to select that and paste it in place, which is just Command F if you didn't know that already, and then just scale it down like so, and then just copy it again, and we're going to do the same for this smaller one in the middle, and then just use your eyedropper tool and copy over the thickness of that stroke. So I want to do the spokes of the wheel now, so if I just use the pen tool, I just want to make a line from here over to here and make the stroke a little bit thinner. So a quick way to rotate this around this circle is if you just select it and then copy it and then paste it in place, and then you can just hit R on your keyboard, just select the center of the circle, and then if you hold down shift, it's just going to make sure it hits 45-degree increments. So once it's like that, just let go, and then without doing anything now, you just want to copy it and then paste it in place, and then if you hit Command D on your keyboard, it's just going to repeat that last step that you did. So then you just have to keep copying it, pasting it in place, and then repeating until it goes all the way around this circle like so, and before you know it, you've got all of your spokes. So just want to select them now, holding down shift on my keyboard. So I've got them all selected, and then just group them together, and then just copy and paste them in place, and then just rotate them around so they sit somewhere in the middle of the other spokes, like that. And then last but not least, I just want to put some little bolt holes on my wheel. So that's just another circle. And then copy it and then bring it down to here, and then all I have to do then is just select them both, group them again, copy and paste it in place, and just rotate it around. And like that, we've got a wheel already, so that didn't take too long. So I just want to copy that over to this side and place it there. So I've already got a good foundation to start basing the body of my car off now. So let's just make a new layer so we can separate the wheels from the body, and then just hit P on your keyboard to open up your pen tool. So I'm going to start from the back and work my way to the front. So what I want to do now is just go around the main outline of this car body. I'm not going to do all of the detail parts yet. I just want to get that outline, and then I can start filling in all the other little bits. So if I just click here, and then by clicking here and holding, I can just drag my anchor point curves around, and then I can start tracing over the outline of my sketch. So while you're doing this as well, you can start moving everything around by just selecting these endpoints and bringing them up and down and editing your handles until you move on to the next section. If you're not too familiar with using the pen tool, it just takes a little bit of time getting used to how it all works and how to get the desired curves you want. I like to just start off with the main outline first, simply because then it just means I can make sure everything on the outside is using a thicker curve, and then everything on the inside can be a little bit thinner, just so I can get some more 3D depth in my pieces. Right, so I've gone over my outlines, so what I want to do now is just get this curve that goes around the wheel, and I want it to be a perfect curve, so they're pretty much running parallel to each other. So what I need to do is draw another circle from the center point of this wheel, like so. But then what I want to do is have these strokes join up. So if I just zoom in a bit, and then use the direct selection tool, which is this icon here. Just select these lines and then drag them till they join up with these lines. Like that. And then what I want to do is do the same for the front bit. So what I want to do now is, if I select these, obviously you need to get rid of this bit here. So if I just select it and then hit the plus sign on your keyboard, that means that you can add anchor points. And because you've made these join, if you move it over, it should snap. So you can just put an anchor point there and an anchor point there. And then all that's left to do is back to direct selection and just select this little node and then hit delete, and you'll see there that they make a perfect join. And then just want to repeat the process onto the back wheel. So just add one there and delete the bottom. And like that, we've pretty much done the outline of the car. So if I just highlight all of them and then do Command J to just make sure that this is just one continuous path now. So we've got the main outline. So what we need to do now is start adding in those little details. So the process I normally go through for this bit is I want to start using a thinner stroke, just so you get a bit more depth in your work and it's just not all uniform strokes. I'm not a big fan of that. So using the pen tool again, I think I'm going to start with the back again and work my way to the front. So I just want to start creating this curve here. So just want to select there, and go with here and just drag it over so it starts to mimic it. And then from this point, what I can do is I can start using these handles and just make sure that it's the curve that I want. I don't have to follow my sketch down to the T. I can start making refinements and make that shape just look a lot better. So what I want to do now also is start varying my stroke widths. So I use a custom brush set which I've got, which you can find the link in the description if you want to grab that. Or failing that, you can just use these profile sections here and edit them. But I like to use these because it just makes things look a bit more hand-drawn. So I'm going to go with this one and just make it thinner. So I'm going to go with a thickness of about half a pixel on here. So you can see that it's just started to curve it down. So, but I don't want it to go all the way down. I want it to like end around here. So if we just add an anchor point onto there and just delete the end, then it's just going to look a lot more nicer and refined. So I'm going to pretty much repeat that for the rest of the car. So I'm just going to go around with my pen tool, following these lines that I've made, and just start filling in those little details so it starts to resemble the car that I'm after. Alright, so we've done the main outline, and as you can see throughout the process what I've been doing is hiding and showing my original sketch just so I can see how things are sitting with my main outline, and I'm pretty happy with how everything's looking. Didn't have to deviate from the sketch too much. So what I want to do now is just highlight everything that I've done. Make sure I've selected the outline colour. Just go into your swatches panel and just select the colour to black. So that's pretty much how I have all of my outlines in all of my pieces. So what I want to do now is go back to my layers, lock this outline layer, and then all I've got to do then is just go on to layer 2, and then I can start adding my base colour. So this process is pretty simple. I just go using my pen tool and just go around the outline here of each part. It's a bit of a tedious process, but it's how I work. Not all workflows have to be the most efficient in the world, do they? As long as it works for you, just stick to doing that really. So I just want to go around this main outline colour, clicking around each point. You can be really rough with this because it's going to be hidden by the black outline anyway, so it doesn't have to be the neatest thing in the world. And then once you go around, start curving it for things like the wheels. And once you've done this a few times, you can start to do this really quickly. But when you first start out, it's going to take a little bit of getting used to. So that is that done. So I want to give it a fill now. So I show my sketch layer, because it's got here. What I want to do for this bit is I want to just pick out a nice shade of blue from this car. So I like to normally go around where the main light source is hitting, and you get a little fade where it goes really dark. So I like to go somewhere within this area, I'd say. Let's zoom out and have a look. That looks alright to me, but what I like to do is once I've picked the colour from there, I just want to open up my swatches panel, double click, and then I can start tweaking the colour a little bit just so it looks a little bit more bright and vibrant. So now I've got my base colour. All I have to do for the wheels is just draw a circle and make it one of the charcoal greys, just so you can still see the actual outline of your wheel. And bring it down, and then this wants to be a lighter grey, just for the chrome bits of the wheel. And then just copy them over to the other back wheel. So if I look back to my reference image, I can see that these seats here are brown. This exhaust could do with being a bit more metallic. And it's a pretty single coloured car. So I'm just going to start by filling in the rest of these sections here with the colours that are in the reference image that I've used. So again, just using the pen tool, just clicking around really. So that is a perfect way to introduce the sponsor of this video, which is Skillshare. Alright, so I've done the base colours, so just want to hide this sketch layer now. Base colours are done, so next is adding your shadows and your highlights. So I'm going to start off with the shadows, and if you're familiar with my pieces already, you'll know that I like to have my shadows coming from the top left, and then all the shadows are going to be coming around this bottom bit here. So if I start off by selecting this brush here where the lines taper off, if you just hit B on your keyboard, what you can do is you can just start filling in these little marks. So this is set to white at the moment, so just make it to the black. Start thickening up some of these lines and then stretching it out until it gets to the desired shape, and then bringing the transparency down to, I'm going to go with 40 for some of the darkest shadows, and then I'm going to vary that up, so it's going to be some of them are going to be 30, some of them are going to be 20, other ones are going to be 10s. So I'm going to put another one down here. When it comes to doing this, it's always good to refer back to your reference images, but the more and more that you do this, the more familiar you're going to become and the more natural your shadow placements are going to start looking. It's just all a practice game, really. There's not really many shortcuts you can do to get good at doing this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this one. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just add some different kind of shadows. So I want a shadow to sort of fill all of the edges here. So I'm going to use the pen tool again. So I just click to here and then to around there. I just want to start making a shape like this. Making sure its fill is black and then going back to around 30%. Actually, maybe 20. So we've got a shadow like that, and then now I want to add the brush stroke here. So just like that, and pop it into place. Make sure it marries up and aligns with this stroke here, and then bring it down to 20 again. So I like doing shadows like this just because it's like multi-layering up your shadows, so they just don't look as flat. It just makes everything look a lot more 3D. So I'm going to do the same with this seat here. So light's going to hit this bit here is going to have a shadow. So I'm just going to go around and fill that in. I'm going to go with something darker, about 40. And then this seat, because it's further back, I want to add just the whole shadow on at around 20. So based on if your light source is coming from over here, you kind of just want to just add shadows to the opposite side of each object, just so you can start to make it look a lot more 3D. So I'm just going to go around all of the different elements and start adding these in. So I think that's my shadows pretty much sorted now. So what I want to do is I've made a new layer and I'm going to start adding my highlights now. So this is when things start really popping off the page. So on the opposite edge of where I've made my shadow marks, I just want to start adding some highlights. So because this is a metallic car, there's going to be some really bright highlights, there's going to be some dull highlights. So it's just figuring out what surface that you are illustrating and just making sure your highlights reflect it. So if my light source is coming here, it's going to be a strong highlight there and some around here. There's going to be some dim ones around here and some strong ones on the top of this bit here. So I'm going to start off with this section. So I just want to draw a line with my brush and then just angle it and then bring it up. Make sure that it is white. And I'm going to go with around 70% for this one, and probably for some of the marks on here, they're going to be around the same. One on the light on the front here, this one I want to make 100%. What I like to do when I'm putting highlights onto anything glass, I like to make the highlight 100% just so it just gets that more reflectiveness on it. So then I want to put one on this little window mirror here on the side, and then one at the top on here, and then another little sliver there. I'm going to go with around 40% for this one, and around 20 for that one. So we can already see just by adding these little marks, it already looks so much more realistic. So it's kind of crazy how adding these little tiny details just makes so much of a difference to your final piece of work. And the more you do this, the better that you're going to be getting at it. When I first started doing these, I was shocking. So it's all stuff that you can learn at the end of the day. So don't get too bummed down if what you're doing first time isn't perfect. Strive for perfection once you've had a bit more time doing stuff. So I'm going to put one on these seats here, and I want them to be a little bit duller, so around 30%. Maybe this front one, put it up to 50. So that's getting there. So what I want to do now is just open up this layer and have a look at my reference image. So there is one thing that I've noticed that I've kind of messed up myself, is these wheels aren't really reflective as what these wheels are here. You can see, you can actually see through the spokes and see like some disc plates. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back up to my outline layer, I think. I'm just going to ungroup everything. I'm just going to do a little bit of work on these wheels, but I don't have to start from the beginning. So I've already got like the main map also for my wheels. So what I want to do is just want to use the pen tool and start clicking on the inside of these spokes like that. And then I can always tweak them a little bit just so they fit a little bit better. And then to select each corner, I can round them off like so. So I've got them sorted. So what I want to do now is select it, copy and paste it in place again, so Command F, go back to the center, and just bring them round like that so it's in the middle. And then all you have to do is just do that little repeat step that we did when we did the first spokes, and they're all going to fit in roughly in the middle. If they're a little bit off, that's not a problem, because we can just go through and tweak each of these until they're where we want them to be. So they're roughly how I want them. So I want to go through and delete these spokes now because I don't need them. So if I just go through, selecting each one and delete them, we'll see that that more refined tyre shape is there now. So once the outline's done, we can just go back to our base colour layer and just start tweaking them from there. So select each of these. And then just hold Alt down and Shift and bring them over to this wheel here. Let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. And then we're going to delete each of these spokes again. Alright, there we go. So just lock that layer, and then what I can start to do now is I can fill in these little bits. So if I just go back and copy this back wheel group, go back to my bottom layer and paste them in. All I've got to do then is just select the colour that I want the inside of these spokes to be. So I don't want them all black, so I'm going to go with like a slightly off black, so more of a grey, just so you can still see these outlines, because there's still going to be a little bit of light hitting this inside of the wheel. So I'm going to go with this black and then copy it over to the front wheel. So now that I've got my wheels sorted out, what is left to do now is I just want to start going over some of the more finer details of this. So we just unlock everything just so I can edit stuff. This little section here, I think it's a bit too thick now, so I want to start shrinking that down. And then if I go in my brush set, I'm going to select this brush and just use the plus sign on my keyboard to just add some anchor points and delete them away. Just make them a little bit thinner so I can start to get a little bit more 3D depth on that wheel. Start playing around so you get the right thickness. So I'm going to try 3, maybe 4, looking at it. Yeah, like that. So go over there and just delete that one. I just got to move this over so I can just copy it over to the back wheel. So I want a bit of a shadow on these wheels, so I'll just make another circle from the center point, hit A on my keyboard, and then I can just select these bits here and then just add a nice little shadow on this bit. I'm going to go with around 40 for the wheel and then copy and paste it in place and then just drag it over to here. Then I think I'm going to put just one highlight on this wheel. So I've used my pen tool and click here and drag there. Bring the thickness down. And again, because it's a highlight, I just want to make sure that it's white. Because it's quite a chrome finish, I'm going to just leave it at 100%. And maybe bring one over to the back wheel, but then just knock that down to about 50%. So if I go back to my layers panel now and hide everything, you'll see that we had this sketch here at the start, and if I bring everything back in, we've got this really nice 3D well-defined car. So we'll just unlock everything and then just highlight it all and then just group it. So that just means now I can just select this car as a whole and bring it round. And then use these align tools to just make sure it's in the middle and start bringing everything to size on the page. So I'm going to go with that. Lock that, and then just in the layer below, just draw another circle but stretch it out just so it fits underneath this car. And then bring it down to the level of the wheels. And then just make sure it's got a black fill. This is just going to be the main shadow that the car is casting on the floor. So bring it up a bit so it marries up with if the wheels were hitting the floor there. And because the light source is coming in this way, there's going to be more shadow on this side than on this side. So just move it across a little bit. And then if you want to, you can just drag it out a bit. And for the floor, I'm going to go with 70 for the main shadow. Lock that layer and go to the layer below. Now we're going to do the background, and on most of my pieces what I like to do is use the main colour of my object as the background. Just it looks nice and minimal, and that is my style. So just drag it out. That's the background done. So if I go to trim view, it just means I can view it as it's going to look like when I export it as a vector. I'm going to hide these windows. And then what I want to do now is, this is all grouped, but if I just use the direct selection tool, what I can just do is highlight individual parts. So this front window, I want it to be a bit transparent so you can get a bit of the blue background through it. So I'm just going to set it at that. Maybe looking back on it, this could be a bit lighter. So I'm just going to select it and go with around 70% as opposed to 100. So just use this time now to just start refining stuff and pulling things out and just making sure it's exactly how you want it to be. So all I've got to do now really is export this. So I'm just going to do that, and then we'll have a look at that finished piece. So that has been the process that I go through to transform my sketches into fully polished vector illustrations. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you drop a like and a comment below, subscribe to the channel for more videos, and if you've got any suggestions, let me know in the comments about what you want to learn next. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.